Hey everyone, and welcome to my session using AI to streamline your workflow. Very excited to be presenting for the BCS Back to Best STEAM 2023 session, or sessions, I should say. So, once today we go ahead and get started. So, right off the bat, I would love for you to be able to have access to this presentation for one, so you can have a copy of it later to use, and then also to be able to follow along maybe a little bit easier if you need to skip ahead or anything of that nature. So right here's the bit.ly link. Also, if you have any questions as far as sketch or anything like that, right here's the link for that as well. Information about credits. So zero point 0.3 CEUs for 3 hours and 0.6 for 6 hours contact, depending on how much you do. But all those questions are answered there. And then there will be a form at the end of today's session, so make sure you fill that out. Let me just move me over here. So just to introduce myself, my name is Grant Haynes. I'm an instructional technology facilitator at Cleveland County Schools. Been here since 2016, been in education since 2009. So excited to be invited to present for y'all. If you ever have any questions as far as what I present today or just need to get in contact for any reason, I usually am pretty quick to respond to my email. So that's my school email there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I try to post relevant information if I can. I don't post there often, but if you want to give me a follow, feel free to go ahead. So what we'll be talking about today, I may just leave myself over here. What we'll be talking about today, as far as standards, we're going to be looking at the ISTE standards. Some of these may also see the DLCs, but North Carolina is implementing ISTE standards, so I wanted to make sure I highlight those. So we're looking at, as far as educators, standards 2.2 and 2.5. I'm not going to read through them verbatim, but these are the standards that we'll be going through today. So looking for leadership support, empowerment, and success, and to improve teaching and learning, and then learner-driven activities that recognize and accommodate learner variability. So we're going to try and look at ways that you can use AI technologies in your classroom, and also ways of helping to provide accessibility, and then just kind of, try and make it as easy as we can for ourselves, because there's a lot of demands on us as educators. And so we want to try and make it a little bit easier for you as far as your day-to-day processes, and just coming up with ideas for things. So hopefully we'll get something out of that today. What I would love for you to do is to, as far as a collaborative piece we have, this is a document that will be for the beginning and the end. But I would love for you to first, in a box, and you can also draw a text box, but these are editable. These are accessible to everyone, so please don't delete these for anyone. So if you're accessing this later in the day, don't delete any responses, but name up to 3 positives and up to 3 negatives of using artificial intelligence in education. This is kind of there's like a two-sided coin to this. I've spoken to people who are just absolutely on board with using AI, and then I've spoken to some who are just hard against it, have issues with it. So I'd love to know what kind of the general feel of the class is. So hopefully this will be filled out throughout the day, and that you'll be able to see those responses. And I will also be checking this on the day itself. So I hope that you have some good information. There's a second slide here, but we're going to save that for the very end. So moving right along. So I have 5 tools that I'm going to highlight today. There are several others that you could look at. I'm trying to stick as close to free as I can. Some of these are kind of freemium. They have a paid option on there, but everything I've done in here, I've not paid for or anything of that nature. So we are going to take a look at ChatGPT. We'll be referring to that one several times throughout this presentation. Canva is a big one, because Canva for Education is just a really great resource for all educators for creating all kinds of things. Curipod, if you're not familiar with that one, that's a great new resource. I actually was able to meet the creators for that back in NC Ties. Conquer is a new one that I've just learned about in the development of this lesson. And then YouTube and Article Summary is actually a Google extension that I think is a pretty great resource for using things, especially if you use video or websites a lot in your teaching. So these are some just 5 resources of many. So there's some things that I don't hit on that you'd like to look at more. I've got some resources at the very end of this slideshow that you can use to get access to. So starting right off the bat, we're going to look at creating lessons using AI. And so we're going to start off with the OG ChatGPT. So ChatGPT has been around it's been around for a while, but it's really kind of come out of its shell or kind of broken into the mainstream, I'd say, since about January or so. And so you can ask it anything that you want. I'm going to go ahead and hop over to it. And so this is my ChatGPT window. If you sign into it, you have access to all your previous writings that you've done before or questions. It's a very natural language style of creating things. And so what we can do is we can ask it to create things for us. I know a lot of times we may be planning lessons and it's like, oh God, what do I want to do? So this helps kind of break that writer's block that you can run into. And so we're going to play around with a little bit and just kind of show you what you can do. So starting off, let's say I'm a English teacher and I'm doing To Kill a Mockingbird. So I could say, all right, I need a lesson plan for chapter 1. So let's do write a lesson plan for the book To Kill a Mockingbird. And then if you hold down Shift and Enter, you can make a new line. Make this lesson, let's say for 9th grade English. And let's see what we create here. And you can see here, this is happening in real time. Move me down a little bit. So as you can see, it's creating this lesson right off the bat. It's kind of making this kind of general parameters. I didn't tell it how long the lesson needed to be, so it's kind of making its own decisions there. But as you can see, it's writing this up for me. So I have an introduction. We have about the author, Harper Lee, and this is pulling from all of the internet. So we have introduction questions. It made a spot here so I can go back and click on this lesson later. But we have a pre-reading activity, reading and analysis. And so this is kind of doing the entire book. And so, but we've got an entire lesson here that we can start from. All right, I can take this, all this information here, copy it, open up a new Google Doc, and then I can hit paste. I may carry over some things from the ChatGPT, but I can always go in and clear that out if I need to. But I can also leave it as is. So right here, and these are all editable fields, so I can go in and change what I need to or adjust. If there's some things I want to change on it, so for example, say I don't really want this for the entire book, so I could tell ChatGPT, rewrite this lesson just for chapters 1 and 2. Notice I don't have to say for To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a natural-based language model, so I can basically just like I'm talking to someone else. So it knows I'm referring to Kill a Mockingbird. So I'm going to rewrite this lesson for chapters 1 and 2. Let's see what it gives us. So it's writing me a new lesson. It's giving me materials list. And sometimes it could be a little general. Okay, we just skipped ahead there a little bit. But you can see it's got me a new lesson, and I can keep going from there. I can refine this further. I can make this a shorter lesson, a little bit longer. I could add a standard to it. So let's see what happens when I do that. So what I can do is I can paste a standard. So I went ahead and opened up the North Carolina ELA standards, and we're going to say create an activity for this lesson that follows the standard. I'm just going to make a new line here, paste in my standard, analyze how complex characters develop over the course of a text, interact with other characters, and advance the plot or develop the theme. And we'll see what it comes up with. So I want to try and hit a standard here for that I'm following. So we're going to scroll down to my page. So it still knows I'm talking about chapters 1 and 2. And now it's created an activity for that standard. So we're refining as we go. It's giving examples. Now, one thing that you should always do whenever you're creating lessons, especially with an AI, is vet the lesson. Make sure that you're using your common sense, one, but also just make sure that everything is lined up and is correct. And you can even tell ChatGPT if it's correct or not by giving it thumbs up or thumbs down if you like that particular response. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through it, creating your lessons. But that's just an example of using our ChatGPT. So like I say, you can add standards to align it, and then you can also save these things. So anytime you sign back in, I can go back. I can even share this page. So if I wanted to share a link to this, I can share it with a colleague and say, hey, look, here's a lesson. What do you think about it? Let's vet it. Let's take a look at it together and see what we come up with. Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at Canva. And so Canva has two AI features inside of it. One is called Magic Design, and one is called Magic Write. And so Magic Write and Magic Design is not, I would say, as robust as the next app, which is CuraPod, but Canva is free for all educators. So you may not be able to use all the features in CuraPod if your school's not for that. But if you have Canva, you do have access to some AI information. So we're going to go here. So if I create a presentation inside of Canva, which I did that by just clicking on presentation once I've logged into my main window, you'll get an option over here for Magic Design. So if I click on this, give me a brief little write-up about, but I need to use 5 or more words to describe a presentation. So let's say I want to do, and I have a 100 character limit, presentation for, or let's say presentation about structures of DNA, and I want to let's say with discussion activities. So we're going to hit that. We're going to create our presentation. And the great thing is it gives you options. And so it's going to use AI. I think it actually connects with ChatGPT, but you get 8 options here with multiple slides. So all these have 9 slides, and they're kind of variations of the same thing. Most of them use the same picture, but you'll see what we can do here. But it does include information. We've got slides that correlate with it. Sometimes it's, depending on the topic, it may be a little off or a little not quite the same. And so, but if this is a layout that you like, here's our discussion activity. We can click create my presentation, and boom, I've got 9 slides created, ready to go using Canva. And I can make adjustments here. I can change any of these texts. I can change the photos, whatever I need to. And it took me all of about a minute to create this. So it's a great starting off point, I would say, for Canva, because I can go in and, like I said, just make my general layout, and I can go ahead and get started. So another way of getting a little bit quicker, moving a little bit forward. So let me get back to my right tab here. We're opening up a lot of tabs, so I need to try and keep track of everything. So I'm going to close a couple of these so I don't lose my place. But that's just an example of one thing you can do there with Canva. Moving on, CuraPod. CuraPod is like what we just did with Canva. It creates a presentation, but it's a little bit more refined. It also has, or I would say a little bit more robust, I should say, because it's got a lot more information, a lot more activities. So let me go ahead and log in here real quick. So when you log in for the first time, and this is an example of a freemium product, I will go ahead and be upfront with that. So you see I have an upgrade option here. So you're limited to a couple of slides per time. So if you want to work your way around it, you can have your lesson, and then once you're done with the lesson, you can delete it. But they do have an upgrade option there. But I do want to show you this because I think it's a great product. Um, so you have a couple options here. You have activities that you can create, and these are actually new. These weren't here a couple months ago, so they're already adding new stuff, new products or new activities to their product here. So I'm gonna go over here to generate slides, but before I do that, purify my slides. You can actually click this and upload a PowerPoint, a Keynote, or a PDF document, and then it will actually curify it. So it will actually turn it into a CurePod lesson with their activities and also generate some additional slides if you want to. But we're going to start off here. We'll go to generate slides. And so from here, we can select our content. So let's talk about mathematics here. So let's say we want to do 9th grade, and I want to do the quadratic formula. And then we can also, I like this option, is to write or paste your learning objectives or standards. So let me go grab some math standards real quick. Okay, so just like last time, I went and grabbed a math standard. So solve for real solutions of quadratic equations in one variable by taking square roots and factoring. So now we're going to click do magic, and now we're going to let CurePod create its slideshow for us. All right, that took about 30 seconds or so for it to upload, but now we have our lesson here. So this created 9 slides for me, starting off, and they all have, several of them have activities in them. So this one, and you can see that by looking in the top left corner of your slides. So this one is a word cloud. Actually, what is the A in the quadratic formula? Answer in 2 words. And so we can kind of go through and look at this problems here. So it even wrote out quadratic formula for me, concepts. So you can see there's not really a math writing tool available as of yet. I'm sure that may be something they have coming later. They do like these brain break activities. And so you can add those in if you'd like. Other things that you can do, you can also go in and find other lessons. You can find elements that you want to add. So if I wanted to have this activity here, I can go in and add other parts to it. So let's see. So up here, I can go and I can click and I can change the type of activity that I have here. I can make a new slide if I want to. I can add in those content and skills that I want to and the objectives. So if I want to continue adding to this, I can do that. You'll notice that there are backgrounds to this. I can go in and change these if I want to. I can do just a solid color. I can change the brightness of it. I can apply this to all. So if I want all of my slides to be just this yellow background, I can do that. Or I can also go and add in my own images. So I can customize this however I want to. But as you can see, this is an example of a math lesson. You can do this with various types. There's also other ones that you can look for. So you can search. If I wanted to search quadratic formula, let's see if there's any in here. Just depends on if anybody's made it. So nothing that's that specific. So say I like this one. Go ahead here to the very end, and I want to add all 4 of those slides. I can add those slides to it. So I can build my presentation as I go, and these are ones that have already been made. This is a voting one. So there's a lot of interactive pieces in here. So great for formative assessments if you want to use that with your students. And then your results as you're going through these. Let me find one that has one. you can see those results here, or if you're presenting it, you can also add it in that way. But there's also a variety of ways of doing this. So if I hit preview, you can actually do a preview of your lesson and have a phone over here that will allow you to do that. This might not like me because I'm doing recording right now. There we go. So this is what the lesson looks like. So if I were to go over here and type in my code, I've got this ready to go. And so this is what the student name, or excuse me, this is what the student sees on the device, and then it's using a cell phone for it. But I can go in, as you can see here, I have clocks that I can add, and those were things that I could adjust earlier. So if I want to do it, we've got music that plays. Let me mute that. And so they can join in to word cloud activity. Let's see. All right, so sorry about that, but we got it working now. So if I go here and go to a new lesson, let's find one. So you can see here it adjusts here. I hit the play button. They get a countdown. So they get the question here. They can type in their answer, click submit. If you look here, I have a timer that's going that will automatically turn everybody's responses off. And then once I am done, I've already got an answer up here. We can click stop. Gives them a countdown here. So we can look at results. And so we could see all the results there. You can highlight a particular option. You can hide the answers if you want to, and we can keep moving right along. So it's very similar to some of the other ones like Pear Deck, and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head. But you can look and see how they do these different ones. And then let's take a look at the last one, the Brain Break, so you can see how the drawing tool works. So they can go in, draw their response. Let's see. Won't let me open it while it's going. So if I click stop here, we can see those results there. And you can also, they also have voting. So if you can say, if you wanted the students to vote on which one is their favorite of the drawings, they can do that, or you can skip voting and just show it like that. And so it will show those up there. Again, you can make it full screen, however you want to. But that's just an example of some of the things you do in CuraPod. Let's say you're done with the lesson. You click on this graph up here. You can see your results. Since that was a preview, I don't have the results there. But this is just another way of showing that you can check on those responses as you go through building your lessons. So let's keep moving on. So assignments and assessments. So we already showed a little bit of an activity that you can create using ChatGPT. So let's go back into it, and we'll just keep using our To Kill a Mockingbird example here. Let me move myself up. So let's go in and ask it to, let me just make this a little bit smaller. There we go. You can, from this lesson, so if you do it all within the same thing, it's going to know that you're talking about the same idea. So let's say I want to make some discussion questions. If you have Canvas and use the discussion forum there, you can use that, or anything of the using Google or Blackboard, whatever LMS that you use. So I can create, let's say, 5 discussion prompts for this lesson. And so right there, there's an idea to create those. All right, so I've got 5 questions. I could post these in individual groups. I can choose all 5 of them. You can make it as nuanced as you want to. It's just up to you how you want to do it, but that's just one way of doing it. And all I did was just ask it to create some discussion prompts for me. I can narrow this down, make this a little bit more specific if I want to. I'm just going based off of this one, just kind of like, again, like a natural conversation that we were talking about. Let's say I wanted to make some review questions. So let's say we want to do 5 or create 5 review questions discussing character growth or let's say character roles in the first 2 chapters. So let's see what it gives us. So I knew I was wanting those specific ones, and it even gave me specific characters to look at. Can do that there. And then lastly, what if we want to create an actual assessment? So let's ask it to create 5, let's make it 10. 10 multiple choice questions for this lesson with answer key. Because sometimes if you don't tell it, it won't give you the answer key. So let's see what it does. So you can see here it's generating our 10 questions, multiple choice like I asked it to, and it also provided the answer key at the very bottom. And again, like we always do, we want to make sure we go through and vet these things. And so like some of these, like this is oddly specific, so this will be an easy question to answer. But you can go through and adjust these. I can copy and paste this into another document and then just write them down that way. Or if I just need example questions, or if it's hard to, because we all know creating assessments for students can be really difficult sometimes, just coming up with our answer choices. And so I think this is a great option as far as creating those, so that way you have some options to choose from versus trying to just come up with them out of thin air. So those are 3 things you can do as far as assignments and activities in ChatGPT. Conquer is our next app that we haven't spoken about yet. This one is specific to creating quizzes. And so I can create an example quiz. So let's see here. And this one is also another freemium. I believe there's a limit of 5 on this one, but you'll see there's actually a really cool trick you can do with this. I wouldn't call it a trick. It's just a feature that they have. So let's say I want to make another, let's say chapter, since we already know it's going to be a test, chapters 1 and 2 of To Kill a Mockingbird. That's just the subject we're going with today. And so, and I can also customize this. So if I wanted to make this read and respond, fill in the blank, or mix, let's actually go mix with this one. We can go high school, we can go all the way down to kindergarten, and we can go as far up as college or higher education. And we can also change the language. So if we wanted to make a version for Spanish speaking students, or if you have other ones that speak different languages, you have that option there. And then also, this is a cool feature, use my own source material. So you can also type in any source material that you want to with a max of 1,200 words. It's a minimum of 100 words. But if you have source material you want to use for the quiz, you can do that as well. But I'm going to do that. We're going to click generate. I need to log in first. And so now that I've logged in, we're going to generate our questions. And we told it to do a mixture of question types. So let's see what we get here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it didn't necessarily create all the ones that I wanted to, but I can go in and edit the title if I want to. And if I don't like it, we can also look up different options here. But let's take a look at what we have first off. So we have 5 questions, and I believe we can do this at the very beginning, but we can go through and change the number of questions. I just may have forgot to do that there. But things we can do. We can preview it, see what it looks like. So if we do this within the platform, we do have some accessibility options here. So I don't know if you could hear that or not, but it will actually read the question to you. So if you have students who have issues reading or comprehension there and they need something read out loud to them, you've got that option there. Let's exit the preview here. You can also validate your answers with a Google search. So who is the narrator of the story? We can click on here. And then it will go through and you can validate it that way if you'd like. Assign or export, so you can copy a link. The students can go in and then they can take the test. But right here is one of my favorite options, export to Google Forms. So watch this. I can click this right here. Since I signed in with my Google account, it's created this open quiz in Google Forms. And look at here. So right here, this is kind of the workaround you have with Conquer. You can create your quizzes, send them to Google Forms, and then you have this, like, even if you delete the quiz in Conquer, you've got this now. And these are quizzes, and so they've already set up with the answer key, their points required. So you could get this, if you normally give Google Form quizzes, you can do it this way. And so it's a great option for that. Other things you can do with it, you can also print out an answer sheet or print a question sheet, and it will look like this. So we'll hop over here. So you have like a more traditional fill in the bubble option there. So great tool for that if you need to print something out or send it home with students if they don't have internet access. That's another option there for that. And so great features there. Other things you can do inside of Conquer, you can also explore other quizzes that have been made. However, these tend to be just science and looks like more science. So these are all science-based ones. But we can also go into biology. We can do, I believe they're all science. There is some world history in here. And these are ones that are already made. We don't have the option to change over here. So just kind of keep that in mind. But as far as creating, it's pretty easy to go in and change that. Let's go here. There we go. Let's change this to 10 questions. Let's see if we can generate a mixture of questions here. Let's see what we get. The beauty of working with AI is even when you're doing a presentation like I'm doing now, you'll never quite know what you're going to get. A lot of times it's really good, but sometimes you may get some things that are not what you want. So we got all multiple choice, but that may have been because I did just multiple choice questions that time. It's fine though. I'm sure you get the idea. So we can keep moving right along. And so great tool for especially if you like to create quizzes or on the spot formative assessments. But the fact that you can export any of your quizzes to Google Forms is a great option. I'm hoping this is something that they'll allow even on the free side of it. So fingers crossed for that, but great resource to use. So I hope you check it out. Looking into accessibility. So we've already talked about a couple accessible features using these 5 apps. One thing that I want to mention that's not in here is Microsoft Immersive Reader. That is one that I think is a great tool. It is technically an AI because it's taking your information, read it, and allows you to turn basically any document into something that can be read. And it's in all of Canvas's content pages. And it's also available on several websites. So if you ever see that, definitely look into that. But the ones I want to look at this one, for this, I've kind of combined them together because the extension, YouTube Summary extension, does actually use ChatGPT. So I kind of combine them together. But what we can do with this one or a great option I saw, this was from the Canvas Queen on YouTube, and I'll link her video in the resources. But she showed how you can actually use ChatGPT to rewrite articles that you read online in order to adjust to certain grade levels. So we can try that out real quick. Let me grab an article. So I've pulled up this article. This went to science.org. We can grab this article here, and we're going to link this because we always want to make sure that we give credit to this. But say I have a Canvas page and I want them to read this, or I have a Google Doc, and I know I have students who may have a different reading level, but I want them to read about this article. We're just using this as an example. I can copy and paste the text. Go over to ChatGPT. Now, one thing I will say, make sure that you start a new chat. Otherwise, it's going to look at the science from the lens of To Kill a Mockingbird, and I'm going to say rewrite the following article for 7th grade students. Make a new line, and we're just going to paste our text in. You can see it's all in here. And let's see what we generate from this. So you can see here, it's already rewriting this. And as you go through this, you'll see that it'll change certain words or phrases to be a little bit more accessible to younger readers. And I can go all the way down to kindergarten if I wanted to. But once I have this information and it's ready to roll, I can take this text, copy it over, drop it into my document. Always make sure we link the original document, so that way we're providing our citations there, because we don't want to just copy and paste from the internet and call it our own. And so this was rewritten by ChatGPT. But you can see that it was a little bit cumbersome because I had to go through and actually copy all of the text. But if I go back to the science article, this is where the extension can come in, because even though it says YouTube summary, it's also YouTube and article summary. So if you turn it on, so I'm going to click on the extension real quick. You can use, and I hope y'all can see this, but you can have a summary icon turned on for your web pages. And so if you couldn't see it, I apologize. But down here is our little ChatGPT icon that's for the extension. So if I click on this, it's going to actually do exactly what I just did earlier. It's going to start a new one. But what it will do is summarize the following in 5 bullets, and then it does the exact same thing again, but it did it a whole lot quicker than I could have. And it gave me 5 options there, or 5 summary points from this article. So it's a great thing to have if you need to have key points to point out for the students, and go ahead and have that ready. You can also use it for YouTube videos. So I'm going to hop over here to the Canvas Queen video. So this is actually the video that used it before. But one thing the extension does is it adds this button up here. If I click this drop down, it'll actually give me the transcript. I can go over here and I can copy this transcript down. So if I have students who need to read the captions or something like that, I can have this and it will have it in a separate document if I want to, or I can actually upload this to a caption creator if I have the video itself. Not necessarily this one, since this was owned by someone else, but that is an option that you have for that. Or you can go here and view AI summary. So we're going to take this, and what it will do is it'll take that transcript, paste it into ChatGPT. It's going to ask it like it did earlier, where the 5 following, summarize the following in 5 bullet points, and then it's going to give me 5 bullet points from that video. So if you have like a 20-minute long video and you need to get the main points for it, and you don't necessarily want to have to go through, try and figure out what the points are yourself, you have this option here. Super fast, super convenient, and a great resource to use, especially if you use video lessons or website lessons with your student. One other thing I would like to point out is you can also customize the prompt. So this one is defaulted to doing 5 summaries, but you can actually go into the extension page. And like I said, I don't know if you can see it or not, because I'm not seeing a little window pop up here, but there is a title that says prompt for summary, and I can go in and change the summarize the following in 5 bullet points. I can change that to rewrite for so-and-so's level. So that is something that you can have defaulted every time. So if you always know you're going to have to rewrite an article or summarize a video or anything like that nature, you can have that set as your default response. And then once you click that button, it'll always do that every time. So a great option there for teachers who need maybe to rewrite articles for students who may struggle reading. Rubrics. So I'm sure several of us have had to create rubrics before, and you've got 4 levels, and then you've got also you have to like 4 different standards, and so there's a bunch of information that you've got to fill in, and sometimes that could be a daunting task, especially if you have to create a bunch of them. So ChatGPT, again, like I said, is going to be the one we go to all the time for a lot of these things, is has an option for that. So if I open this up, and let me grab a standard real quick. So let's say I want to make a a rubric for the following standard here. We'll see if it'll let me highlight it. We'll go about there. We'll copy that in. And then I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to create a new chat. And I'm going to say create a rubric for the following standard. We'll paste that in, and we're going to get rid of that right there, make it look nice and pretty, and hit generate. And so sometimes it'll do a 4-point rubric, sometimes it'll do a 5-point rubric, sometimes it may not do a table. This is actually the first time I've had it do it where I didn't have to tell it to create the table. But as you can see here, it's creating my rubric for me. It's got my information here. It's got 4 levels. And so it even gives a note there. But if I want to use this, I can highlight this, and I'll show you the way that works best for me is if I were to highlight this table and then go to a new Google Sheet. I can then just paste that in there, and then we can make these a little bit bigger, and then we'll go ahead and wrap our text. And so this is a little bit easier to copy and paste into other documents. If I want to drop it into a Google Doc, however you want to do it. I found that putting into an actual spreadsheet first will help, because if you go directly to the Google Doc, it kind of gets a little wonky and the fonts can be a little big. And so it's a little bit hard to manage versus just dropping into a spreadsheet and then copy and pasting from there. So however you want to do it, that's my recommendation. But this is a great feature because now I have a rubric for this standard, and I can make a rubric for anything. I can, as long as I have the criteria for the rubric, it'll create it for me. And the more specific you are, so if I need a 5-point rubric, a 3-point rubric, specific things of that nature, I can go in and create these things super fast, and always go through, like I said, vet them, make sure that they align to what you're actually looking for. But this is a completely editable document, and so I'm not starting at 0. I'm starting about 90% of the way done. So I just need to go through and make sure all this lines up. And I've made what usually may take an hour to 2 hours of work going back and forth between somebody. I've knocked it out in about 4 or 5 minutes. So that right there is a huge time saver, I feel like, in itself. So I hope that you definitely look at utilizing it. So a couple other applications, and these are just things that you can do with ChatGPT and Canva, because CurePod and Conquer and the YouTube article summary, those are kind of task specific. But you can do some cool things with ChatGPT. One, you can craft emails. So if responding to parents can always be the hardest thing, especially when you're talking about students. And so you can craft your email how if you want to craft it how you want to say, paste that in there and have ChatGPT rewrite it in a professional manner. It'll do it. You can do, and Canva will also do that with Magic Write. You can also beat your writer's block, like we were talking about earlier. Just have your first draft be created by the AI, and then you can work from there. So let me show you the Canva Magic Write. So I just went ahead and hopped into Canva real quick, just spared you the details there. But I've just got a little 8.5 by 11. And so one of the options that you have inside of Canva is this little assistant over here. You can go here to Magic Write, give it a prompt. So I need, let's say I need 3 paragraphs on ribosomes. One thing I do want to point out, this particular feature, Magic Write, is only available to teacher accounts. Students do not have access to it. But let's see what it generates. So it gives us the prompt at the very top, and then we have 3 paragraphs about ribosomes. So again, we can go through, vet this, change this up if we need to, but we also have access to all of the Canva tools. So we can go through and make it look however we want to. Obviously, I need to make sure I rewrite this stuff beforehand. But that's one way you can use that inside of Canva. You can do the exact same thing inside of ChatGPT. So one thing there, so you can rewrite it that way. Another thing you can do with the Magic Write. So if I have my text selected, hit my little editor here, I can summarize and I can also expand text. I can even rewrite it. So if I click the rewrite button, and this is available through the Canva for Education option. So made that really wide for some reason. Let's shrink that down so it actually fits. So rewrote that for us, or I can even go in and also summarize the text. It's going to take that copy, do it that way. I can even go in and expand the text. If I have a small bit of paragraph and say I want to elaborate on something, I can click that expand writing button. And so that's one feature that Canva has over ChatGPT. It's got these quick shortcuts already baked into it. And this is all done inside of a vast editor with images, features that aren't available because ChatGPT is just the AI that you're talking to, whereas Canva is also a design tool. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through it. Running short on time, so we're going to keep plowing right along. Practice interviews. So this is a cool feature that you can do. You can have ChatGPT assume the role of an interview. So let's say, interview me like I'm applying a job as an IT specialist. So it's actually giving me an entire transcript here. So versus actually acting like it. So that's on me. I probably should be more specific, but that is something you can do in there. Another one, if you want to do a cool brain break or a little bit of adventure, or this could be used in English class if you want to kind of go into a um, kind of adventure based thing and to see where it goes, and then come up with a story for it. You can also do adventure like text based gaming with it. So if I go in here and say, let's see. Actually, I already have one from before, but let me get one. So let's say, let's play a fantasy based text game. And let's say set in the Star Wars universe. Let's see if it does that. It's going to think about it. And right here we go. So it's asking me questions. So we can go ahead and go. So go to Cantina. But as you can see here, it's actually doing, and this is actually kind of exciting for me because this is the first time I've used the Star Wars prompt, but it's actually using like Twilight Dancer. So you can go through and you can play for however long you want to. It's going to give you options. And so if you've ever played old text-based games or Dungeons and Dragons, very similar to that. So if you need a brain break yourself, or if you want to do this with students, it's a great option there. So that will wrap up the majority of my time, in fact, not all of my time. But before we go, I would love for you to go back to our original editing document and to that second slide. So what is something you could use from this session, and what questions do you still have? I especially would love to know this side of it. So please ask any questions there, and I will make sure to respond to them as quick as I can. If you want to leave your email or any contact information that way, you can do that. Or you can leave me a comment directly, and I can respond to it that way. So you just click. This is a fully editable document. So if you hit the comments button, which I can't see off the top of my head, there it is. You can drop a comment in that way, and I can respond directly to that if you'd like. So that might be a better option there. But I hope you've enjoyed the session. As far as resources, Here are 30 AI tools. They also include 5 of the tools are the 5 that I discussed today, but there are other ones in there. They are from Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook. Another one's how to use ChatGPT to assess student writing, tech tools for accessibility, information about Canvas, Magic Write, Magic Design. The CurePod's YouTube channel is great because it kind of gives you a how-to on that one. Information about Conquer. But I hope you've enjoyed this session. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or leave them on our document from earlier. Thank you for the sponsors. And then we also have attendance feedback that'll come through in different form. But I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. So hope you got something from it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.